Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the hashtag Get Real Woke podcast. I'm your host, Frederick D. Scott, and today is Sunday, and y'all know what that means. On Sunday, we do our hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session. So before we go on and jump into this session today, I need everybody to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell, leave me a comment at the end of this video, let me know what you think, and finally hit the join button to join the hashtag Real Woke live chat community. All right. So for all of you who have never been on a hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session, if this is your first time joining us, what a hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session is an opportunity for someone from our community to come on live with me and ask questions relevant to a topic. So they apply, and if you want to be one of the people that gets a chance to do this, just go ahead and click the link in the description, fill out the application, and maybe you'll be the next person that I pick for a hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session. So with that in mind, today I have with me Cedric Robillard. And Cedric is an aspiring business owner. Well, he's actually a business owner currently. He has a nonprofit organization and a limited liability company. He is a basketball coach, a trainer. He does a lot of great, wonderful things in the community for the children, for college athletes, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to let him tell you all about that. But with me, I'm just going to introduce Ced. Hey, Ced, how you doing today? Oh, we can't hear him. We can't hear him. I think we lost him there. Hey, Ced, we can't hear you. Yeah, I think your mic's not working well. So Cedric is actually in Colorado currently, and he is actually running his business right now. So we may have a little bit of technical difficulties with his internet connection, but he's definitely here. And I look forward to speaking with him today and answering his questions. So hopefully we can go ahead and get him on. But while we wait for him to get that figured out, hey, y'all know how it go around here. Yo, hit that like button. Show me a little bit of love. Show me, hit that subscribe button. Hit that join now button. Join the hashtag Real Woke live chat community where you can get perks and benefits and the opportunity to join our exclusive hashtag Get Real Woke Facebook private community where you can network with like-minded individuals. You'll be able to learn from thought leaders and successful business owners and be able to have access to opportunities like contests and giveaways. So it's a very exciting time. So definitely go ahead and join the hashtag Real Woke live chat community. Cedric, are you there? Cedric? Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Fortunately, I actually do have his questions that he wants to ask. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those questions up, and I'm going to go ahead and go down the list of questions and begin to answer the questions. Hopefully between now and then, he'll be able to get his situation set up so that way we can hear him. It might be beneficial if Cedric, go ahead and drop off and drop back on, and I'll just go ahead and add you back in. Oh, there you go. I heard you. I heard you for a second there. Cedric, are you here? Okay, Cedric, go ahead and drop off and drop back on, and I'll go ahead and add you back into the show. And we'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself, tell people about you. And while you do that, what I'm going to do is go ahead and start answering some of your questions. So one of the questions he asked, here he is right here. I believe he just came back in. Let's see. Cedric, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great. Awesome. We got Cedric here. So Cedric, how you doing today? I'm
great, man. Sorry about that, man. There you go.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I understand. I mean, you're running your business right now. You're moving and grooving. So, of course, with that, while you move into the airport, there's going to be some technical difficulties. So thank you for joining me on the hashtag Get Real Woke podcast today. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Everybody doing out there? I'm Cedric Robillard from San Bernardino, California. Can you hear me? Let me make sure if I just
I hear
ramble.
you great. I hear you
Okay,
great.
good. All right, yeah, Cedric Robillard, San Bernardino, California, man. I reside in Vegas right now. Been out here almost 6 years. Started the ACEs going on 5 years ago. Nonprofit program. Love helping the youth, boys and girls. Started out with 16 kids in 2016. Now we're over 100, all ages, 8 to 18. Man, love helping the kids. Love seeing progress with everybody that I come in contact with. Love making connections with people like you, man. It's a wonderful joy to meet great people, like-minded. And I appreciate you having me on here, man. I'm excited, a little nervous, so I apologize to your viewers, man. But
No, it's okay. Listen, don't be nervous. There's no need to be nervous. Just, kind of relax. We're just having a casual conversation. Think about it like, we were sitting one-on-one together, face-to-face, just having a little bit of a discussion. I mean, that's all we're doing here. We're just having a little bit of a discussion. So now, with that in mind, you asked some interesting questions. You post some interesting questions, in your form, and I really thought that would be good for the overall community to hear. So let's go ahead and get right into that. So why don't you go ahead and ask your first question, and we'll take it from there.
My first question, honestly, because I just started my LLC, is why? Why an LLC over an S Corp or over corporations? Like, what would be the main reason to start an LLC in your opinion? Why is it the best thing?
So I'm glad you asked that question, and I think that's a really good question that people, need to get an answer to. So when we talk about why you start an LLC, I think the better question is, why should you have a legal entity formed when you are starting a business? I think that's a better question, because whether it's an LLC, whether it's a C corporation, etc., what you're setting up is a legal entity registered with your state or a state, because it doesn't necessarily have to be your state, for the purpose of doing business. And the reason why you want to set up a legal entity is for a corporate protection, a limit of liability. And what do I mean by that? So let's say you have a great business idea. You start this business, you start operating as a business, you go down to your county and you get a business license and you get a DBA, which is a doing business as, and you go ahead and open a bank account and you start operating. What happens is you are operating as what we call a sole proprietor, which means that you have no legal structure in place. And because you have no legal structure in place, you have nothing to protect you in the event that something goes wrong. For example, let's say, and we'll take your case, for example, because I know you were just telling me in the studio before we went live that, you just acquired a basketball gym, and congratulations for that. But let's just say you have this basketball gym, you train kids in this basketball gym, they come regularly, and you're set up as a sole proprietor. You don't have a legal corporation incorporated. And let's say one of these children gets hurt. Now, let's say you're at fault for that hurt. Let's say that you recently mopped the floors, you didn't let the kids know, you didn't give the floor an opportunity to dry, and you didn't put down any wet floor signs before you started practicing, and one of the kids slips and falls, breaks an ankle, gets hurt, whatever. A parent may decide that they want to sue you for liability. They may want to file a civil suit for damages. Now, if you are a sole proprietor, when you get sued, right, when that parent sues you, they're suing you as a person, which means they can come after everything you have personally in the event that you are found liable. However, if you have a limited liability company in place or a C corporation set up, what happens is they don't sue you, they sue your business. And so the business becomes liable for the damage and not you personally. That's what we mean when we say a corporate structure, a limited liability company or C corporation, etc., gives you a limit of liability. It gives you a shield. It gives you protection in the event that something goes wrong. So that is why you set up a corporate entity. And, so I hope I answered your question well. The reason why you would generally set up an LLC as opposed to a C corporation, especially if you're going to be the only owner, a single member LLC, is because it's a lot less paperwork requirements throughout the year. And we'll get into that as we continue to progress here in this conversation. So what's your next question?
Next question. Due to the fact that I do have an LLC and a nonprofit, is it a good idea and is it even legal to connect both of those together? And how could that benefit and how could that hurt you as an LLC and a nonprofit?
Great question. I love that question. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand that the nonprofit organization, which is a corporation, it's a nonprofit corporation, and the LLC, which is a for-profit business. So one is set up for charitable purposes and charitable endeavors, and one is set up to make money. They're two totally separate things. So let's start there, right? So they are not associated with each other from a legal structure standpoint, period. They're completely separate things. Now, with that in mind, that doesn't mean that, for example, you have in your nonprofit organization, you're all about training and developing children into great athletes, great student athletes to be able to go on to college. That doesn't mean that at that LLC, once that child gets to a point, so they've graduated from the development pipeline in your nonprofit organization, and they've gotten to a point now where they're in college and they're looking at the NBA, looking at getting drafted. That doesn't mean that your LLC, let's say it was an athlete management company, couldn't then come in and manage that kid as an adult in the NBA. So it could, your nonprofit organization and LLC could work together in a way to where one is feeding the other business or one is feeding the other contributions. Now, here's the interesting thing. And when I say this, I need to be very clear that you have to be very careful and you need to talk to a tax advisor when you consider this strategy, because there are a lot of rules and caveats to this. But it is possible, if you own an LLC and a nonprofit organization, it is possible for the limited liability company to provide donations to the nonprofit organization and receive a tax write-off. However, you can't go overboard with that because remember, you own both businesses. So the IRS is going to be looking at that very heavily. They're going to scrutinize that because they want to make sure that you're not trying to evade taxes by using the nonprofit organization as a way to funnel money or launder money and not pay taxes. So you have to be very careful with that. And there is because you own both businesses, when you file taxes at the end of the year on your LLC and you show that contribution, of course, the IRS, because they're going to see that you own the other business, is going to look into that a little bit harder. So the best way to handle a situation like that, because it can be done, but it has to be done very strategically. It has to be done within the guidelines of the IRS, and it has to be reasonable. It has to make sense. So what that means, let's say, for example, making sense. Let's say you had a net profit at the end of the year in your LLC of $100,000. You can't turn around and donate the entire $100,000 to the nonprofit organization to not pay taxes. That's clearly you're trying to evade taxes. But let's say you took maybe $5,000 and donated it. That may, and I'm saying may, be okay. But again, you need to talk to an enrolled agent, a CPA, or a tax attorney when you start considering these kind of strategies, because there are a lot of rules, regulations, and considerations to that. So that's just a couple of ways that the LLC and the nonprofit organization could potentially work together. But remember, they're two totally separate businesses with two totally separate purposes.
Okay.
All right. So
yes, thank you.
No problem. What's your next question? Cedric, are you there? Cedric? Okay, so I think we lost him temporarily again. Again, he's on his way to the airport. So let's see here. Let me see.
I'm back. I got you.
Okay.
I'm back.
All right, go ahead. What's your next question?
And should you have two LLCs or multiple? 5 to 10.
Okay, so I didn't hear the first part of the question. Can you restate the question again, please?
Oh, I'm saying, can you, and is it a good idea to have two LLCs or more?
Okay, so that depends on what it is that you're doing, right? So from a legal standpoint, you can have as many LLCs as you like. You can set up as
Okay.
many LLCs and own as many LLCs as you like. But, as I tell people all the time, when you set up an LLC, a limited liability company, it's for some sort of business purpose to make some money. So before you invest the money in setting up a new LLC, make sure that you've thought through a great business strategy for how that LLC is going to be able to make money and add additional revenue to your collective balance sheet or your collective pot. So, while you can set up as many as you like, I mean, setting up an LLC, it doesn't take very much to do that. It's very easy to do that in the United States. However, there's a big difference between setting up an LLC and running a profitable business. So, as new business owners and people that are aspiring to be great business owners, I always say the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So that means you start one business, you get that business working really well and profiting and growing before you start looking at setting up another business. Now, as your business grows and expands within that business, it may make sense to set up different LLCs that are owned by that business for specific divisions, brands, things that you're doing to separate the liability out. That may make sense too. But again, that's specific to the business, that's specific to the use case. There are a lot of considerations there. So, but yes, the net effect is you can own as many LLCs as you like.
Okay. Cool.
All right. What's your next question, bro?
Yeah, I have so many questions about this stuff now that started. Um, in state and out of state, do you need to be living in the state that you are to have an LLC, or is there regulations to that as well?
Great question. So you can set up a limited liability company in any state that you want to set it up in. You don't have to be a resident of that state, you personally, to set up an LLC in that state. In fact, most of your Fortune 500 companies in the United States are set up in either Delaware or Wyoming, right? And there are specific reasons for that. So, you don't, so the net effect is no, you can set it up in any state you want to set it up in, right? But just make sure that you understand why you are setting up your company in a specific state when you set it up. I mean, different states have different tax rules and regulations, some states are more friendly for incorporation than other states are, like Delaware,
And that's
for
what I was going to
example.
ask, not to cut you off, but the tax purposes.
So, a lot of people like setting up in Delaware because Delaware is relatively cheap from a tax standpoint for a business. In fact, another thing is that in the state of Delaware, they have what they call shareholder and member anonymity, which means that I can't just go to the Secretary of State's website, pull your filing, and figure out who owns the business, right? So that's another reason why people like the state of Delaware. And the state of Wyoming is very much similar to that in the way they operate. So, it again, now, when you are first setting up a business, when you set up your first limited liability company, because there is a small thing that you need to consider. When you have an out-of-state company, you need to generally register. Let's say you set up a company in the state of Delaware, but you're doing business in the state of California. Generally, you want to do what's called a foreign qualification or register that foreign business in the state of California, right? So that way you'll be able to actually open a bank account. But overall, you do, because some banks give you a difficulty if you're just a foreign corporation not registered to do business in the state. They give you a little bit of a difficulty about opening bank accounts. So some banks are like that. But and so in that aspect, you have to always consider that. But the short answer is you can incorporate in any state you want to incorporate in.
Okay, my main purpose of that question was because of taxes. So you don't have to be in that state to file taxes. But if you had multiple ones, how would that work with state? Because it's different state tax, like you said. But as long as you just follow the guidelines, you should be okay, right? No matter where you're at.
So let me, and because you're asking a lot of tax specific questions, so let me go ahead and put a disclaimer out there right now, not just for you, but just for the entire audience. I'm not an enrolled agent. I'm not a certified public accountant. I'm not a tax attorney. I do not do tax preparation, and I do not provide specific legal or tax advice for any businesses. So what I'm providing here is general information. It is always advisable, and I highly recommend and suggest that you seek counsel from competent tax attorneys and tax advice from competent tax attorneys, CPAs, and enrolled agents. Now, with that said, with that in mind, as it relates to taxes, taxes fluctuate from state to state to state, and how they work for your business is going to fluctuate state to state to state. Generally, though, the state that you're doing business in is usually the state you're going to be subject to paying taxes in, even if you're foreign registered. But you'll still have to pay an annual registration fee or an annual filing fee to the state that you're incorporated with annually. So that's generally how that works.
Okay. Yeah, very informative. Okay, because a lot of that stuff is going on. I'm just starting, so I know taxes seem to be the main problem for any business. It's always tax this, tax that.
Sure. But always make sure that you seek a licensed professional that specializes in tax to help you through those things, because every business is different, every situation is different, every strategy is different. So you need to make sure that you have someone that's well-versed in the different state and federal tax laws that can advise you properly and specifically to your business use case. Cedric, are you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes. Go ahead. So what's your next question?
Oh, next question. How important is it when is a good time to upgrade your LLC? Is there times there's different levels of LLC, correct? Like, when do you feel like it'd be good to upgrade it, or add on to it or something?
Okay, so there are not different levels of LLC. An LLC is an LLC, right? So there's only one, there's either your single member LLC, which is you own it all by yourself 100%, or you're a multi-member LLC, which means you have more than one person that has ownership of the LLC. But there is no really upgrading or downgrading an LLC unless you're going to change the corporate structure from an LLC to a C corporation, et cetera, or you're going to elect to be an S corporation from an IRS standpoint, if you elect that tax treatment from an IRS standpoint. Now, when do you, and what I think you mean is you're talking about expanding your corporate structure.
Yeah,
so sometimes so sometimes it makes sense in your business that you may be doing so well that you might want to borrow money, or you might want to take on capital, but you're a limited liability company. And so you're growing to a point where maybe a venture capital firm or a private equity firm is interested in investing in you. At that point in time, you'd probably set up a C corporation that would own your LLC, and the venture capital firm would invest into the C corporation, and you guys will work out some sort of share structure and arrangement that works for them. So that might be a reason. You may decide that, hey, you know what? So I do sports management on this side of my LLC, but I also have a sports marketing division, and they're two totally separate things. So I think what I want to do is set up another LLC just specifically for sports marketing and just make this the sole agency. So that way, in the event that something goes wrong on either side of the business, it doesn't destroy your whole business. So you might set up another LLC to just do the sports marketing, and that be a completely separate business from the agent business. And so sometimes you grow and expand in a way where it makes sense to then segregate divisions into actual separate companies. So again, that's specific to the use case, though.
Nice. Okay. I think I asked something. What's in your opinion, the most important reason to have an LLC? I know you said it's to protect yourself. Is there anything besides that?
So it's for the limit of liability. The most important reason to have a corporate structure is for the limit of liability. That is the most important reason that you need to have it. Now, there are, certain tax treatments and tax considerations for LLCs as well, and corporate structures in general. But overall, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, the most important reason that you set up a corporate structure is for that limit of liability, that protection, separating your person from the business. That is very important. And in that, I'm going to say another thing that you need to always remember. So what you never want to do in your LLC is commingle your personal expenses with your business expenses. That's called, what we call that is piercing your corporate veil. And how do you pierce your corporate veil? And I'll give you an example of what that means in a second. But okay, let's say you have a personal cell phone, you have, your personal rent or mortgage, et cetera, and you use the company credit card or the company debit card to pay your personal expenses just willy-nilly anytime. You're always buying personal stuff. What you have done is commingled your personal expenses with your business expenses in an inappropriate way. And now what that does is pierce your corporate veil. And what it means to pierce your corporate veil is you and the business now become one entity. You guys are the same. So you lose your limit of liability because you've treated your business like your personal bank account. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's great. I definitely was thinking about that. Okay. Because it's so easy to do that.
It is very easy to do that, but there are a lot of strategies that you can employ to prevent yourself from doing that. For example, the company can always get company cell phones and provide you a company cell phone as a part of your business operations. Or what can happen is you could become an employee of your company, a W-2 employee, and as you could then do an employment agreement between the company and yourself. And as a senior executives get certain perks and fringe benefits. And let's say one of those fringe benefits is that the company reimburses you for your personal cell phone expenses or provide you some sort of compensation, or they could provide a company car, they could provide all kinds of perks and benefits for you being a senior executive of your company. But again, when you start getting into stuff like that, you definitely need to be talking to a tax professional, and you need to be talking to an employment law specialist, a lawyer that specializes in employment law, to help you work out the right employment agreement that's going to fly in your state and under federal law that's going to achieve what you're trying to achieve without piercing your corporate veil or violating a federal or state statute.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Good information. I need that stuff. Another question, a good one.
Sure.
For me, because
okay, you came out a little bit there. Go ahead and ask the question.
With the gym that I just got, I do a lot of work out of my home and now out of the gym. Is it good, or is it even legal to have one LLC under two addresses in the same city?
So that's a great question. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you could have your corporate headquarters and you could have a branch location. I mean, lots of businesses have separate locations for different things. So one would be a headquarters, and one would be like your company headquarters, and the other would be a branch location. Sometimes what will happen is a company will have their tech team in an offsite location. They may have their marketing team in an offsite location. That's not uncommon and not unstandard, and it's not unstandard to have multiple locations in the same city, in the same state. So that's not really an issue there.
Even as a home address, that's fine, because that's where
So now with the home address, right? I mean, you can have a home address as part of your business operations. However, be aware that you can't write off your entire house as a business expense, like your entire lease payment as a business expense. So, for example, I have a home office, right? And so what I do is, so my company leases at the square footage of my home office. You see what I'm saying? From me as the landlord.
Yeah.
And so that square footage that I use solely and exclusively for business purposes, the cost of the amortized cost of that in my mortgage, I can now, you see what I'm saying, write off. So let's say, my mortgage is, and I use very easy numbers for you. Let's say my mortgage every month is $1,000, and based on the square footage of my office, if I amortize that out, it would come out to be $100, right? So I can write off $100 of that every single month. You see what I'm saying? I can expense that every single month, $100. But I couldn't expense the whole space because obviously I don't use the whole house for business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. Now, how would that work with your vehicle? Same way, you could write out $25 for gas or something like that, but not the entire vehicle, correct?
So I'm gonna have to, because that you're getting very specific in the tax issues now. I'm gonna have to refer you at that point to a tax specialist, because there are, when you're dealing with company vehicles, there's mileage, there's certain, types of calculations that the IRS has, and I'm not an expert in those specific calculations, and I don't want to speak to that and give you bad information. So in light of that, I'm going to recommend that for that specific question, you take that to a tax professional. Cedric? Okay, I think we lost him, and that might be because he's in a bad reception area, and that's okay, because, one of the questions that he did want to ask that I really thought was very valuable to talk about is why an LLC over an S corporation. And what he was trying to ask basically is which is better, an LLC or an S corporation. And I wanted to talk about this with the community, because I think a lot of people have the wrong idea about S corporation. So I want to talk about S corporation briefly with you guys. Okay. So a limited liability company is a legal entity, a legal corporate structure that you can go to your state or a different state, file a business registration for, and register and set up a legal entity. So that is okay. He's back. So that is what an LLC is, right? So it is a legal entity, that can be incorporated. An S corporation, it is not possible in any state to incorporate or file for a registration for an S corporation. There is no legal entity called S corporation, okay? What an S corporation is, it's a tax election. So an S corporation is a subchapter S corporation. And what it does for you is that when you have, and it works the same with an LLC. So an LLC from a from an IRS standpoint is considered a disregarded entity, which makes it an S corporation. When you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, it then makes your entity what's called what's known as a pass-through entity. What is a pass-through entity? So these businesses, pass-through entities, don't pay federal income tax at the business level. The business does not pay federal income tax on its profits, because what happens is the reason why the business isn't paying federal income tax on its profits is because the income and deductions, etc., pass through to the owners. So that's why they call it a pass-through entity, because it passes through to the owners. And at that point, the owners are the ones that pay the taxes, and they file that tax. Usually, if it's an LLC, a single member LLC anyway, it's going to be via a Schedule C. So I wanted to be very clear that an S corporation isn't a legal corporate entity. It is a tax election. That's all it is. It's a tax election. It's no more complicated or simple than that. So, I could go into several other areas of the S corporation and how it works. But, again, I would strongly advise that you talk to a tax advisor. But the net effect of it is that an S corporation is a tax election. It is not a legal filing. It's not something that you go, to your state and say, I want to file for an S corporation. You elect that. It's an IRS tax election, and it's it stands for subchapter S. So that's what it is. So I just wanted to share that with you. Cedric, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. So I went ahead and covered one of your questions really quickly. But do you have any other questions that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I actually kind of want to see how long you've had your LLC, and do you actually really like it? Is that one of your best decisions you made for your business and yourself?
So the best decision I ever made was going into business for myself. Let's start there. So the best decision I ever made was going into business for myself. And gosh, I've been in business for myself since 2007, right? So I've had several different LLCs, several different C corporations, several different corporate structures. And as I've grown and scaled in my success, in my business endeavors, in my investment portfolio, in my overall assets, my corporate structure has become more, I guess you would say, diverse and complex. And that's because of all the various different considerations that you have to have for different types of business investments, different types of asset class investments. If you're investing internationally like I do, then you need legal entities in the countries that you're doing business in. So there are a lot of things to consider. But yes, I love corporate structure. I love the flexibility of corporate structure. And I love what I've learned over an almost 15-year career with corporate structure. So yes, but I do think that when I first started out, I started out with a limited liability company. I had a single member limited liability company. So that's how I started out. And am I saying that's the best way you should start out? No, I think it's specific to your use case and what your long-term goals are. Well, your short-term 12 to 24-month goals, and your long-term goals, and the amount of money that you're going to think you're going to be making, right? So how you set up, I tell people all the time, the way you start is the way you finish, right? So in business anyway. Great. So you have to be kind of thinking about not just today, but where you're going to be in 12 months, where you think you're going to be in 24 months, where you think you're going to be in 5 years. And you kind of have to plan, your business operations and the way you're structuring your business at each step of the way. So you may have a single member LLC today, but, if 2 years from now, you think you're going to be doing multiple different things, you may have in your business plan the strategy to set up multiple LLCs or a parent company structure. There's a lot of different things that go into that, but that's based on your business's trajectory and overall strategy going forward.
Okay, nice. Good. Yeah, man. That's not it. Not all the questions I have, but I'm gonna fly to New York soon and sit down and talk to you, man. I would definitely want to pick your brain, man.
Most definitely.
Can help me, so.
Most definitely. And, I'm always open to a sit down, so, just let me know. And I'll make sure that, we schedule at a time that I'm actually in town so we can sit down, chop it up, maybe we'll go have a drink or something like that and talk, But, yes. I definitely appreciate you for coming on. I definitely appreciate you for allowing me to do this before the community and to be able to have this discussion in front of the community, because I think that, is really, really great. Now, Cedric, please tell everybody where they can find you at. Where can they find you? Where can they find the Aces? Where can they see the great, wonderful things you're doing? How can they find you?
Oh, man. So everybody out there, man, Facebook. My Facebook is Cedric Robillard, CedricRobillard. That's my personal Facebook. And then if you want to find the LV Aces, you can go on our email, which is Las Vegas Youth Basketball @gmail.com. You can email me, look up any type of trainings you want, any questions. Me and my partner, Daryl Leach, we're actually on there all the time checking things out. If you want to see my trainings and other Aces things, you can find me at Instagram as well at CRSKILLSTRAING. That's CR Skills Training. You can see everything out there, man. See the wonderful kids. I know you follow me. You see I'm growing every week. Every time, I know you're looking like this dude is really out here, man. And it's genuine, man. I love helping these kids. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Love helping the kids. So I'm everywhere, man. So I definitely appreciate you even bringing me on here, man. Much love.
Definitely. Guys, go ahead and definitely follow him, check him out. I think he's doing some really great things in the community. And Cedric, I want you to know personally for me that I'm proud of you, bro. I'm proud of your accomplishments. I'm proud of what you're doing.
Thank you, man.
I'm proud of the progress you're making, the lives you're changing, the impact that you're making in the lives of children. And this is why I like doing, my Q&A sessions. The reason why I like doing these Q&A sessions is because it's not only an opportunity for people to be able to get questions answered, hashtag for the free, that's always great. But more importantly, I love to be able to highlight, Black men and Black women that are doing things and making an impact in the community and being successful and building a legacy, building their own equity and having the courage to go out there and take the steps. No, it's not always easy. No, it's not always perfect. But you know, what really disheartens me is the way the media portrays us overall as a community. We never get the opportunity to highlight all of the many ingenuitive and hardworking, diligent Black men and Black women that are out here really getting it. So part of why I like doing the Q&A session is it's an opportunity to highlight what Black men and Black women are doing professionally. And more importantly, what I really like about this Q&A session here specifically is you are a living, breathing example of refuting and debunking a narrative that says African American men overall are not in the lives of African American children. You are proving that is not the case. We got plenty of strong Black male role models for our children. So let Cedric be an example of that right now. So Cedric, I thank you so much for being on the show. I thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for allowing me to, share this with the community. Hey, everybody, listen, if you like this content, if you like the videos I put out, if you like what I'm doing here, show your love, show your support by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, leaving me a comment. Definitely turn on your bell notification and hit that join button to join the hashtag Real Woke live chat community so you have the opportunity to take advantage of all the great perks and benefits that we're offering here at the hashtag Get Real Woke podcast. And lastly, if you are interested in being able to come on to a hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session, the link to the hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session form is in the description. Go ahead and click that, fill it out, and possibly you could be the next person on a hashtag Get Real Woke Q&A session. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. I appreciate y'all for spending time, taking a little time out your day to, hear me share a little bit of information. And until the next time, y'all know what I always say, I holla.